Welcome, welcome, one and all. You are here to go from anxiety into action, learning step-by-step strategies for building a successful fundraiser for a cause that you care about. If you're wondering, okay, I signed up for this. Who the heck is this organization? What are they doing? Donor Organizer Hub. Hi, we train, coach, and convene volunteer fundraisers for movement causes entirely for free. So whether you're coming fundraising for a mutual aid network, an abortion fund, a voter empowerment group, we are here to support you in all of your fundraising needs. And then we also support volunteer fundraising team building for movement organizations, and we do that at a sliding scale. So we make it as accessible across the movement as possible. A little bit about us. We are a dynamic duo at Donor Organizer Hub. I'll start with an introduction. Hi, I'm Haley. I'm the executive director. I'm playing the role of facilitator today, so I will guide you through the lessons we have to learn of building a successful fundraiser, as well as talking through the additional supports that we can provide at Donor Organizer Hub after today. My favorite thing about fundraising is it's an opportunity to build new leaders. A lot of the skills that we use in fundraising can also be applied in other forms of community organizing. And I can't stop watching Big Brother live feeds, y'all. It's a little bit of a blast from the past, but I really enjoy seeing what gossip and little political alliances are happening on the reality TV screens. Ellie, I'm going to pass it over to you.
I'm Ellie Sayavedra. I'm the head of operations at Do Hub, and today I'm going to be doing tech support. So if you do have any issues or have any questions, feel free to message me directly since Haley will be not seeing those things. I love the group effort of a fundraiser where you really feel like the whole community is coming together to share something. And I can't stop watching all of the weirdest Olympic events like kayak cross. Very fun.
All right, so that's us. We are your team of two today and hopefully beyond today to support you in building a successful fundraiser. So this training is a part of a three-part series called Fundraising is Organizing. Today, we're going to cover the nuts and bolts, the basics of hosting and organizing a successful peer-to-peer fundraising campaign. So it's going to go through, we'll talk about goals, who you can ask, what are you asking them, how are you approaching them? Next week, exact same time, we're going to talk about if you've tapped your networks, you're like, how can I get more funds raised? How to transform your donors into fundraisers. So we're going to talk about building fundraising teams. And then in September, to end us off, we're going to be talking about building donor engagement ladders. So this is talking about building communities of donors and being able to expand beyond our immediate and second degree networks. So what is a fundraising campaign? I've been saying fundraising campaign. What do I mean by that? To raise funds over a set period of time for a specific purpose or initiative. So thinking about how much you're looking to raise for, what's both ambitious and achievable. Who do you ask? How do you ask them? And what the heck do you say to them? How do you approach them? And so just to kick us off, just to warm us up today, would love to do an activity. If y'all can pull up the Zoom chat, I would love you to put a yes or an emoji in the chat if you have recently thought one of these things. So I would love for you to put a yes in the chat if you've recently thought, I don't know how to fundraise. I'm new here. I've never done this before. Or maybe I've tried it once or twice, but I don't know if I actually know. All right, all right. We're seeing some hard yeses. Beautiful, brilliant, y'all. You're in the right place. All right, next round here. Put a yes in the chat if you have recently thought, I'm afraid. I'm afraid to ask people I know for money. I'm afraid of them saying no. I'm afraid I'm going to embarrass myself. I'm raising my hand. I've been there. Who's with me? Yes. Okay. Yeah, it can be so awkward, right? We gotta get through our jitters. Um, okay. Put a yes in the chat if you're thinking to yourself, I don't know how much I can raise. I feel like every time I'm setting a goal, I'm pulling a number out of my butt, and I don't know if it's too little or way too much. Wow. Okay, we got some yeses in the room. Now, pop in if you are not sure if your network is big enough or wealthy enough. I certainly do this. A lot of times we round up, y'all. We're like, well, I don't know if I can because this other person, they just know so many more wealthy people or they have so many more friends than I do. Who gets that feeling sometimes? Yup, yup. Okay. Final one. I don't know how my fundraising opportunity can stand out amongst all of the other worthy causes out there. Who's felt this recently? Yes, and classism and elitism is so real, Mia. Big time. All right, my friends, it seems like we're in the right place. So let's dive in. Today, we're going to come out with these objectives. All right, this is what you're going to learn. You're going to confront your fears in asking for money. It's step one. Whether we want to admit it or not, we like to think it's all logistical. A lot of it is psychological, spiritual, however you want to put it. We're going to confront those. We're going to learn how to set ambitious and achievable goals. We can do both, and we'll talk through how. We're going to identify who in the heck you can ask for money. We're going to get out of that space of, I don't know if my people are wealthy enough. I don't have a big enough network. No, you do. We're going to do it. We're going to decide impactful, doable fundraising tactics. So this gets into how in the heck am I going to approach them? Am I going to post on social media all the time? Am I going to call them? What the heck am I doing? I outed myself as a millennial with this one. And then finally, we're going to craft a fundraising ask that leads people to make bold for them donations. All right, we ready? Let's do it. Oh, and this is recorded. There'll be Q&A at the end. I will say, I am here till all of your questions are answered, or I have to go to bed. So I'm literally going to be here all night. So if and as you have questions, keep track of those questions. If it's something that's kind of urgent, they'll raise it to me. Otherwise, we'll put it in the bike rack for the end of today, and we'll give you all the time you need in the world. Could I ask for a brave volunteer to raise their hand to read this quote from fundraising training mentor Kim Klein? Thank you, Genevieve. Take the floor.
Sure thing. Confronting our fears. As long as money remains private and mysterious, only people who are willing to learn about it can really control it. In that case, systems can remain discriminatory, and people without knowledge about how money works will have far fewer choices and much less power than those willing to break the taboo. By Kim Klein.
All right, give it up for Genevieve, y'all. Let's dive in, friends. We're going to have a little share in the chat moment, okay? Little reflection question. We're dipping our toes in. What messages, ideas, and attitudes about money were told to you by your parents, your peers, and others in your community? Yes, Mia, taboos and secrecy exist to keep us down. What are some other messages, ideas, attitudes about money that you were shared about? Don't talk about money, politics, or religion. It's harder to talk about money than anything else, even the most intimate subjects. It's not polite to ask questions about money, to ask people about their money. Money is scarce, to be guarded and spent accordingly. You're not supposed to pay too much attention to who has how much, but of course we all do. It's impolite to talk or ask about it. Anything about money is transactional, that's taboo. Wow, there's all these constraints, right? It's like, do this, don't do that. Oh my goodness, it's a controlled feeling and behavior. So it's no wonder that we all feel like absolute anxious freaks when we're about to ask for money, right? It's normal. Congrats, you're human. A second question for you though, a little bit of a reframe here. In an ideal world, what would people be taught as children about money? How would this change how we feel about money as adults? Yes, money can be used to communicate values, absolutely. Together, we have enough money for everything. Money should be freely donated and asked for, absolutely. Money is a resource you can use to create the common good with others. We need to face the reality of the role that it plays for our society. Would love to live in a society where money is optional for survival. Yes, to all of these, y'all. Okay, we've dipped our toes in. We're going to keep going. We're confronting today. We're going to play a little game. Are you ready to play a game? Did you know you'd be playing games after your work hours? This is called The Worst That Can Happen. So here's what we're going to do. Imagine that you're going to ask someone for a relatively large amount of money, anything over $100. So just quickly think of a person and a number. Like I'm thinking, Ellie, $150. Lock it in. And then we're going back to the chat, y'all. I want you to type in the chat what you think would be the worst outcomes of you asking. What the prospect might say or do, what the prospect might think of you, what you think of yourself. All right, that you'd say no. Might change our relationship. Answer no, then ghost me. Oh my God, friendship lost. You're annoying people with your frequent asks. What else? Bring that anxiety freak flag out, everyone. Tell me what's holding you back. What are your biggest fears? They ask me for money another time. The person might be affronted, offended to be asked. Getting tired of ghosting, absolutely. My friends only think I'm talking to them because I want money. How dare you? Won't be used well. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. Can everyone still see my screen okay? So what Ellie's doing is they're putting some of these in the chat. They might feel pressured or irritated. I want us to take a look at what we've said so far here and thinking about that person that we might ask for a relatively larger amount of money. Anybody noticing any common themes or takeaways? Rejection. Yeah, absolutely, Helen. There's a fear of rejection. People are making it personal, damaging of relationships. Yep. Are our worst fears likely to happen? All right, Nicole saying no, unlikely. Rachel saying very possible. We have a mixed crowd in the room. Yeah. Well, let's think about this. Can we control how people act? If someone ghosts us in our friendship for making a fundraising ask, is that a friend that we want to have in our lives? We can influence them, absolutely. And I'm getting lots of nopes. All right, y'all, that was bravery. Shake it out, and we are gonna do a quick second round of games, and then we get into the good stuff, I promise you. Okay, I'm gonna pop this up now. Second round of games to get our anxieties out here. Yes and no lists. Now you're gonna think about the view as you're being asked by somebody, okay? So the roles are switching here. Imagine that an acquaintance, someone that you like and respect, but you don't know very well, has come to you, explained a cause that they're involved in, and asked for a gift. The gift is an affordable amount, but not an amount that you could give without some thought. This can vary depending on the person. So think about what that is for you. I'll say for me, it used to be when I was a tech worker, that would be like $150. Now it might be down to like $50 as a nonprofit worker. And so thinking about what is an amount that you would need to take some time to think about. What I want you to do, we're going to take just a couple of minutes here. You're going to write, and this can be on your notes app, on your phone. You can pull up a Google Doc. You can do handwritten pen and paper. You're going to write reasons you might say yes, reasons you might say no. All right. So what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to play some mood music for us just for a couple minutes, just to get the get the anxieties out. Why might you say yes? Why might you say no? Then we're gonna come back in 2 minutes, all right? See you soon. All right, if you hear the sound of my voice, feel free to jot down that last thought. You got your little yeses and nos and a T chart. Now, I would love for you to share some of those reasons in the chat again, and we're gonna populate them and talk about them, okay? So feel free to just start pasting or typing them in. What are some reasons you would say yes or no? All right, yeah, they feel passionate about the cause. Organization has a good track record of work. Project seems interesting. Something I'm passionate about. Trust. Want to support my friend. No other plans for the money because their why is compelling. Support the interest of friends, assuming that they vetted the org. Okay, great. We got some no now. Focused on other issues. What else? Yes, because this issue or cause aligns with my values or my own commitments. Ooh, we got some juicy ones here. On no, I simply don't have the money. My bills aren't paid. My friends are in need. I suspect they don't need it urgently. Yes, if it's a worthwhile cause. No, not enough value alignment. Would say yes to an ask that involves sick kids. Would say no to one more political ask. Other nonprofit is better at this than yours because the cause doesn't speak to me. Unclear of how much my donation will go to direct impact. Aren't explaining the impact of the gift well. Don't prioritize the cause or value the relationship as much. These are thorough. Okay. So same question as before for y'all. Let's look at the yes column. What's one takeaway you're seeing from why you might give to this acquaintance? What is one reason, one takeaway that you're getting from seeing the why yes? Many different reasons for yes. Absolutely, Vera. Identify strongly with the cause. Yep, yep. A lot of it ties back to that. Let's look to our right here. Why no? What are we seeing in the why no? What's one thing we're taking away from the no list? Yeah, absolutely. Some people prioritize informal requests, survival needs. Others prioritize nonprofits, all different asks. Yep, it's all about their relationship with the asker and the cause, competing needs that take priority. Misalignment, yep, yep. So why did I put y'all through this? What are we doing here? If you're going to take away anything from this piece where we're talking about overcoming our fears, it's two things. One is the worst thing that can happen is the person will say no. That is the absolute worst thing that can happen. If you want to stress role play that in your head right now, feel free. That's the worst thing that can happen. Nobody's going to punch you. You're probably not going to vomit. You're probably not going to lose a friendship. Like, come to me if there are different circumstances here, but in my over a decade of doing this, have not come across any of these actual worst case scenarios coming to fruition. The second piece is usually they say no for reasons that are outside of your control or knowledge. And that's the beauty of asking, right? It's an invitation. People can take the invitation just like they do when you ask them to come to your house for dinner. They can RSVP yes, they can RSVP no, okay? Beautiful. My friends, we have headed into the land of plenty now. Now that we have thought about, okay, my anxieties are valid and I can overcome them, and I have a really critical cause I need to raise for, the first question that always comes up is, okay, what is my goal? What can I really do here? And a donor organizer hub, we recommend that you have 2 to 3 top line goals and that you are very thorough about revisiting what those are. For a lot of us, for most of us, total dollars raised is going to come up and feel like the most important thing. And it absolutely is something you should measure. We also invite you, especially if you're somebody that's going to fundraise across multiple communities or for multiple rounds for a particular cause, that you think about things beyond total dollars raised. Number of donors to your campaign, number of people who learned about your cause that otherwise wouldn't because you're having those conversations. Another thing could be range of donation sizes, because we do want to build a multiracial cross-class movement in whatever piece of the so-called movement that we're a part of. So thinking about being able to say, hey, we raised $1,500 and it came from contributions anywhere from $5 to $500. The key thing with a goal is to be really disciplined about setting a deadline and making it, I mean, just for your own personal sanity, but also thinking about the health of whatever cause that you're raising for, to have a time-bound campaign. You know, we don't like seeing the crowdfunding campaign, you know, with a big goose egg on her that's been sitting around for 3 months. She's sad. We want to make her happy. How do we make her happy? Time-bound. So we recommend to actively fundraise for each campaign, have it be very tight, 7 to 10 days. There can be a lot of planning time beforehand and all these activities that we talked through today. We'd recommend for that to all be done before you hop into the campaign time. And we want to make sure that you are having excitement. You are able to show urgency because it is urgent. You want to be able to raise this amount of funds in 7 to 10 days. So how do we do that? How do we make it achievable and ambitious? It's always a question that comes up, and there's some cute girly math that comes up to make us be able to do this. And I will say, for those of us that are math anxious in the room, don't worry about it. Spreadsheets are beautiful. Ellie's gonna be posting a quick one where all you need to do is type in numbers and it magically outputs things for you. So this is called a donor pyramid. And what a donor pyramid does is it helps us, instead of pulling numbers out of our butts, we're able to really concretize things based on the donation level that we're asking people to donate and the number of people that we're asking. So we're going to walk through this together, okay? This table here. First column, donation level. This means the dollar amounts that I am asking for people in my community. So if you look here, we have $100, $50, $25, and $10. So quite a range. Then in the middle column, we get into number of people. So this is the number of people at each donation level that we're asking. So for the $100 donation, I'm asking one person for that bigger amount. For the $50 donation, I'm asking 3 people, and so on and so forth. This is where you get to the meat of it. Little multiplication test. You take the donation level, multiply it by the number of people that you asked, and you get these totals, dollar amounts by donation level. And what you do is then you add them up. Okay, so for the $100 donation level, we ask one person, that's $100. At the $50 donation level, 3 people, that becomes $150. And we take the 100, 150, add it all down, and wow, okay, we're gonna make $500 worth of asks. An average gift of $25. Not too shabby. 20 people. I think we can do it. So, a question for you all on goal setting to help you as you're thinking about your own goal setting. If I'm looking to raise $500, common fundraising wisdom says I need enough people in my donor pyramid to ask for how much? We know that some people are going to say no. We went through the yes and no list. How much should I have in my donor pyramid to guarantee that I am able to raise $500? How much in dollar signs? Is it $500? Is it $1 million? All right, we got one guess of 1,000. I want a couple more guesses in here. 5K, double the amount you want. 1,500, 1,500, 2,000. Rachel, so the question is, if you're looking to, you need to raise $500, how much money do you need to be asking for in your ask? So how much in your donor pyramid do you need to be asking for? Because not everybody is going to say yes to your ask, or they might ignore your email, whatever it might be. There's some people who are either very well trained or lucky guessers. It's 1,500, so that's 3 times the amount. A little confusing, I know, a little number centric here, but basically, if you're looking to raise a certain amount, like $500, something that you can do to securely ensure that you are going to raise that amount, probably more than amount, but at least that amount, is to aim to raise $1,500 worth of asks. So when I go back to that donor pyramid, I want this, if I'm trying to raise $500, I want this total down here to be $1,500. And we can get more in the Q&A if this is a little confusing. We're gonna give previews of everything, and then we'll have deep dives toward the end. Who do I ask? That's a question that comes up. Okay, so I've got a goal in mind, but who in the heck can I ask? What we recommend at Donor Organizer Hub is at bare minimum 20 people, no matter what fundraising campaign that you're doing. And so what we're going to do right now, because often this is actually kind of the number one blocker for a lot of people, is taking the time to do this. We're just going to take 2 minutes for you all to write an informal list of people you can ask. You don't have to get all 20 people in 2 minutes. That's a wild time test here. But what we're aiming to do here is to unblock you, to make you want to come back to this task and add more people because you're midstream. And so I'm going to put another little timer for 2 minutes, and we're going to listen to some jazzy tunes. All right, friends, if you can hear the sound of my voice, jot down the last name that you're thinking of and bookmark this to come back to. The idea behind this quick rapid fire exercise is that oftentimes we tend to narrow before we expand. We want to think about all the people that we know, because oftentimes we can be really positively surprised. It might be somebody that we worked with 7 years ago and haven't had a chance to catch up with that throws us a $50 donation. And so being expansive about this, it leans in toward all of the potential people that will be on the yes column for us when we're thinking about our campaign. So assuming that you've got this big old list of people, you have thought about who you know, a common question that we get at Donor Organizer Hub is, how do I prioritize people? In particular, how do I prioritize people who maybe deserve a more intimate ask or a one-on-one versus those that I just kind of send an email blast to? And in traditional fundraising roles, they call it the fundraising ABCs. A is access, B is belief in the cause, C is capacity. So we kind of look at that very similarly in thinking about how to order prioritization. At the top is access. A lot of times when we're getting started out with fundraising, we're like, oh wait, who is this mythical, like wealthy white individual that can just write a check and just miracle save us? And the truth of the matter is that fundraising is very much like organizing in that it's very relational. And so thinking about who do you have access to within your community, within your networks. There can be some second degree things that happen here, of course, but really thinking about who do you already know and being able to have those conversations with them first. Second is belief in the cause, a very close second. So thinking about who believes in the mission, who's directly impacted by it, who is excited that you're a part of it, or at least not on the so-called other sides. We're not going to ask our, conservative uncles to give to certain causes if we are not very conservative uncle in our politic. The third is capacity, which is, do they have the capacity to make a gift? At Donor Organizer Hub, we want to make it very clear that we actually very rarely know what a donor's capacity is, even if we have a personal relationship with them. People who give in so-called small donations often have unseen capacity. And also a person that gives $20 and that's more than an hour's worth of labor deserves love too, serious love. And so while we honor capacity as a variable that you are welcome to think about, we like to give that asterisk there because oftentimes we can be a little selective for people and we can be really positively surprised if we actually make the asks more abundant. How do I ask? That's a question, right? Okay, so I have a list of people that I'm getting started with. I have a goal. Do I call everybody I know? Do I email them? How do I think about that? At the end of the day, the choice is yours. There's going to be trade-offs that we're going to talk about, and we want to get into some framings of different types of gifts that donors give, so you can kind of think about what makes sense for you based on your capacity and resources, and also how much you're looking to raise. On the left here, we have what's called an impulse gift. An impulse gift is a donation that the person can make without considering anything else, long-term plans, evaluating the cause, kind of the equivalent of buying a cup of coffee. The rule of thumb here is that it's around 10% of their actual giving capacity for a particular cause. This usually comes from very indirect asks. I'm sure many of us have gotten texts or emails from politicians asking for $3 immediately, or the planet will burn tomorrow. That's them trying to tap into our impulse gifts. They're like, oh, $3. You don't think about $3, do you? We'll just keep asking you for $3. And so that's the realm of impulse gift. When somebody is giving, over a social media story that they see or an email that's in their inbox, they're not thinking bigger picture about how they're connected to the cause. They're just like, sure, here's some funny money, my equivalent of funny money. On the right, we have what's called an impact gift. So an impact gift is a donation that the person makes that takes their long-term plans and the cause into consideration. That's the kind of thing where it's really saying, ooh, like, this is a stretch for me, and I know the stakes at hand are so important for this person's survival, for the ability to hold onto the grasp of our democracy, whatever it might be. The rule of thumb here is it's 100% of their giving capacity. That's not the same thing as 100% of their savings. We're not depleting people's bank accounts here. It's saying, given everything, living expenses, the joy expenses, like sometimes you want to have a nice little treat, whatever else, within the sort of category of giving, they're giving the most that they can for that cause. And that comes from, like any good old organizing thing, direct asks. So thinking about lawn wines or house parties or something where it's looking, Ellie, I would love to ask you to contribute $150 today. It's that kind of energy versus a, hey everyone, BCC'd email, looking to raise some funds. And let me tell you, I'm not here to determine for y'all which of these you do, whether it's one or both. I'm just here to explain to you there is a difference in the outcomes as they relate to your goals based on your strategy and tactics. So basically, you can raise 10 times the amount from direct asks versus indirect asks. So someone that donates $100 from an email that you sent could give $1,000 if they were directly asked. Okay, now we're gonna look at options. Options galore on this slide. And so the way that this is structured, this little chart here, it's looking from left to right, where as you move toward the right, it's higher effort, but also higher reward. And so that's where for you as a volunteer fundraiser, you can start thinking about how much time do I have to invest to be able to get to a more ambitious goal. So starting from the far left, we have sharing on social media. So Facebook, Instagram, Fundraiser, or Link. I will say it's over here in the low effort, low reward because we all do it. We post on social media, the cute photos, link in bio, whatever else. 1 in 1,000 people that see what you're posting are going to donate. It's just a smaller amount. And for those of us in the room that might have some kind of big following, maybe that's a great route for you to take. You've already got a big following, whatever else. I know for me, I have a few hundred people on Instagram. So for me personally, when I'm thinking about my own fundraising campaigns for causes, it's not that I don't post on social media, I just prioritize it last. Or I don't spend hours and hours building a social media post plan for it, just to kind of think about honoring our time. Moving to the right, we have sending a BCC'd email blast. Basic fundraising wisdom has it that for some reason, people are more ready to contribute when they're in their inboxes than when they're on the social media feed. They're not looking at pictures of cute cats or trying to, I don't know, look at trendy merch or whatever else. even for your personal inbox, you're kind of ready to take care of business, to take some kind of action. So it is a little more effective than sharing on social media. Next level over is where we start to get into the personalization bit, crafting personalized texts, voice memos, and emails. And I'm not just saying it says, hi, Ellie at the top, sort of like a mail merge. I'm talking about, hi, Ellie. How are the 2 kitty babies doing? So excited to hear about it. Heard you went to the dentist today. Hope that didn't suck. Like personal for each person. So that raises a bit more because the person feels like, oh, I'm not just part of hundreds of people that were BCC'd. I'm specifically being called to, and have a little social pressure to respond to one way or another to my friend. Then we got phone banks. A lot of us are organizers and activists here, and we've done phone banks. In the fundraising context, it's getting everybody that you have a phone number for. And a cute little script could look something like, hey, Ellie, I'm looking to raise $1,000 in the next week. And insert XYZ things about the organization. I would love to ask for you to commit $50 today. Can you do that? Ellie says yes or no. I hang up, rinse, repeat. And so as I'm going through the call log, I'm updating who said yes, and then checking back. Did they donate? Do I have to follow up with them? A lot of people don't answer their phones anymore, but it is generational. So that's something to think about is, do your people answer your phones? Moving over, we've got conducting one-on-ones. So there actually is not a huge data difference between virtual or IRL. Conducting one-on-ones where it's different than a phone bank is instead of just casually calling the friend up and saying, hey, are you available? Let's talk about fundraising ask right now. What you're saying is, hey, I have a campaign over the next 7 to 10 days. Can I schedule some time to make an ask of you? And so then with that scheduled time, say I do that for Ellie. Ellie already knows going into the conversation that I'm going to make a fundraising ask of them. And so a little bit of anxiety can be taken off of me, and I can really focus on investing in them and what they care about. And so this is where we get into a third to 50% of people will donate when we get into these more direct asks. So it's a huge jump from 1 in 1,000, right? But it does involve more investment in having those individual conversations. And then as we move further to the right, we have a few other things here. You could utilize an effort-based challenge. A common thing is like Relay for Life or a 5K. They're super fun, community-oriented, can be very sweet to bring people together. And a lot of baby fundraisers come in and they're like, I feel obligated to, I have to do something. You don't have to do anything. Your cause speaks for itself. So if this speaks to you and excites you, that's great. If it gives you a headache, we're not going to give ourselves headaches today. No reason. Your time is precious. Then we have hosting a gathering and building a volunteer fundraising team. So hosting a gathering, it could be as simple as bringing 3 to 4 people together and serving them potato chips and some light refreshments, kombucha, beer, whatever you would like. But there is a little bit of energy in the room that can happen that's distinct from having a one-on-one where people feel that there's collective action being taken. Event planning can be in itself a little bit more upkeep and love. So it might not be for all of us, but for those of us who make that investment, it can often pay off. The last one, that's a preview for next week. So get ready. Can't wait for you to join us. Building a fundraising team. That's where it's not just your network, it's you and 5 other people's networks. And so you're thinking about how do we scale the asks? How do we continue to turn donors into fundraisers so that you can build more and more ambitious goals? What do I say? What do I say? Okay, so we've gotten to how to set a goal. We've gotten to how we make a list of people to ask. We just talked through how do I decide in what ways to ask them. But when I'm actually making the ask, whether it's over an email, whether it's an in-person one-on-one, what do I say? Oftentimes people come to us at Donor Organizer Hub and they're like, can you just give me the magic copy and paste that I can use for everything? And I have both good and bad news. Bad news is there is no magic copy and paste. The good news is you are the best equipped because you know the communities that you're in to be able to make the blurbs that appeal to them. And what we're going to do here is we're going to walk through questions that you can answer about the cause that you're raising for as you're thinking about going to your different communities. So some key components of what you say. Why does this matter? Why? Why is it important? Just a simple 1 to 2 sentences. Why is this cause important? Why do we need to act now? Why can't I just, I don't know, give you money in a year from now, 2 months from now? Why now? Why should they be a part of it? And this is based on their values. And this can be tricky for some of us because some of us are super passionate about what we're doing or who we're supporting, and we could just talk people's ears off. And what you actually want to do is think about, what do these people care about? What does this individual care about? And how can I tie this back in to the ask that I'm making of them? What do you need? How much are you raising? How much are you asking them for? Ellie, I'm looking to raise $1,000, and today I'm going to ask you for $50. Explicit. And the reason why we ask specific amounts of individuals is because we want to really get at the heart of them being able to think materially what they can hand over. We don't want people that can give $5,000 to give $5,005, like we don't want that. And we also don't want people to think that we are not committed to the cause enough to understand what we're asking of each person. As organizers, we make specific asks. We say, can you join this next phone bank on Sunday? Can you sign up to do blank? And it's the same in fundraising. We want to ask specific amounts. And there are some ways too where you can kind of go about it creatively. It's a little 201, but kind of thinking about, we're looking to raise $1,000 and we're asking every single person to give the most that they can in this moment to meet that. What number do you think that is for you? You could go there. You really could. There's a lot of fun ways when we get into fundraising asks that we talk about them. The key is that by demonstrating a specific amount or a specific invitation, it's not just a blanket. It's not just like, we need money. Can you support? It's saying, no, we need $1,000 in the next 7 days. And I would love to invite you to contribute $50 to that. Can you do that? And that allows Ellie to think for themselves, okay, so $1,000, $50 is like 5% of that. Oh, that's a very non-significant amount. I can play a role in this way. Okay, great. And then Ellie gives their answer. We move forward. By when do you need it? This is important, especially when we're talking about high net worth folks. I don't know if y'all have any of those in network, but they are just delayers, I will say, across the board. They're like, okay, sure, I'll say yes. And then you're like, okay, but I have to follow up. So we need this by X date, making sure that your pledges become actual donations. So what we're going to do, and this is another 2-minute sprint for us just to get started on each of these activities. We're going to start to write this pitch answering these questions. So again, rinse, repeat. I'm going to set a 2-minute timer and you're going to journal out wherever feels good for you. Notes app on phone, pen and paper, Google Doc. You're going to write your own answers to some of these questions. All right, friends. Hearing the sound of my voice, feel free to write down the last word or quick thought. Now, why am I having y'all do this today? Why are we doing these quick sprints? It's because oftentimes the most difficult thing for us in hosting a successful fundraising campaign is to start. So what we're doing is we're giving little sprinty starts for each of you to be able to come back to. Our brains tend to crave completion. And if I leave you in a sense of incompletion, you're more likely to come back to her. All right, so we're gonna go through this slide very briefly. This is kind of a training unto itself, but a very common question that we get from folks is, what do I say if I want to do a face-to-face conversation? And so this is kind of an 8-step process when you're thinking about a one-to-one fundraising ask, how you can make an ask that will then result in somebody giving a bolder, more significant amount that is meaningful to them. Now, we know that not everybody's going to say yes to us, but those that do say yes, there is a relevant range, depending on my mood that day, depending on what you tell me. It could be anywhere from, $1 to $50, let's say. And so these are the steps to help organize folks to really think about what is ambitious and meaningful to them and giving that space. And it looks a lot like an organizing 101. So the first piece is we don't surprise people. I mean, when you're doing the phone bank, that's great. Have fun with it, make your calls. But we don't want to spring it on people by saying, oh, let's have a one-on-one. And then all of a sudden make an ask of them that they weren't expecting. So we strongly encourage for people to reach out and you can say, hey, I'm looking to raise $1,000 over the next 7 days. I would love to talk with you about this campaign for X cause that I'm working on and why it's so important. And I would love to invite you to join us. Would you be down to chat for 30 to 45 minutes and hear me out? And then when they say yes, you have the psychological relief of knowing that they've already said yes to being asked. So they're there to be courted by you. And a way that it can look sort of step by step. First off, being a human being, brief greeting and small talk. I will say for the avid small talkers in the room, really brief is key here. What I often do for myself, because I am a small towner by background and could chat all day, is I think of one very concrete question that I could ask the person that I'm meeting with. What's one thing you enjoyed about your weekend? What does your son like about being on the baseball team? Just something very quick and sweet. Sometimes we open the floodgates a little bit if we're asking, how are you doing? Especially for those of us that are going through tough times in these moments. Political climates are all over the place. So we just want to think about what is a structured, specific ask to kind of start the conversation. Then doing an agenda and time check. So if this is a close friend of yours saying, hey, I was thinking that we could chat about this for 30 minutes, and then you could say like, oh, and then we'll go on a walk or whatever else. Or if this person that you don't really know very well, you could say, hey, I was thinking we could do this for 30 minutes. Does that amount of time still work for you? Just to confirm that you have that spaciousness together. Then what you do, very much talking about your organizing story, if people are familiar with that, is sharing a little bit of your personal story and specifically why you're fundraising for whatever cause. How were you connected to that cause? Is it something that you've been personally impacted by? Is it an organization that's helped you see your leadership growth? Why you in this organization? And this ideally is no more than a minute or two. A lot of times, again, we get really passionate about the causes that we're raising for, and we can get in soapbox mode, but really here, it's just being succinct about who you are and how you're connected to this cause. Then from there, this is where the sort of organizing agitation piece gets in. Agitation in terms of leveling people up, not agitation as in annoying people. It's asking the donor what they care about. So identifying a shared value, asking, what are you thinking about that's going on these days? Or if you have a specific issue-based cause that you're raising for, what are your thoughts on X cause? Hear from them, be curious. And then what you do is you share why the cause and why now, bringing it back to the shared value that they mentioned. So if I'm raising money for a cause focused on dismantling climate change, I could turn to Ellie and ask them, so, how are you feeling? I know it's kind of big climate anxiety right now. They might share a word or two of what they find really exciting or inspiring or hopeful, maybe in young climate organizers. And I can tie that back. I can say, oh yeah, I've got, a little bit of hope to bring you to. This cause is doing XYZ things. And that's why we're here today. And then there's a moment after kind of making that connection when we get to step 6, where you answer questions from the donor. This is often a time where we like to play sports betting and we're like, oh, I can maybe see if they're going to say yes or no to my ask, right? But actually, you have no idea because oftentimes when you ask questions from a donor, if they say, oh, no questions, it might be that they're in a good mood that day. It might be that they're just not a super curious or inquisitive person about this particular topic. They're like, yeah, sure, great, covered. Other folks might ask a lot of questions, and it's not to say that they're nitpicking what you're fundraising for. They might just be an inquisitive person, a cranky person, whatever kind of person that they are that day. But after answering the questions, what you do and get ready for it. This is this part where your heart will race a little bit. You ask for money, you ask for a specific amount, and then you close your mouth. So I turn to Ellie and I say, Ellie, we're looking to raise $1,000 in the next week. I would love for you to contribute $50. And it's so tempting after I say that to want to interject, to say, oh, I don't know, the economy's kind of rough right now. $50 might be a lot for you. Maybe it could be 25. Don't talk yourself down. Literally what I'll do, I'll hold my hand underneath the table. If there's a table provided, I'll smile and count to 20. Whatever you do to support yourself, but don't undersell yourself. Oftentimes, that if a person is pausing, it means that they're really giving a consideration, not only to say yes to what you're asking, but also connecting themselves to the cause that you care so much about. So you want to give that space. Then, if and when they say yes, you want to have options to give. So, okay, you can give online at this link, or we can take a check. However you can take in the resources, give those opportunities, confirm with them that they're able to follow through on that, and talk about next steps, whatever that might be. And so a lot of you might be thinking, okay, what if they say no? What if these other solutions? We're gonna put that in the bike parking lot for Q&A, but just wanted to give you all a sort of step-by-step playbook here on thinking about, what do I do for the face-to-face asks? Then we got a question of, what if my network's tapped? This slide is a preview of what we're going to be covering next week, which is turning donors into fundraisers. So this is thinking about identifying the people that have already contributed to our cause, who show passion, ability, follow through, or the potential for these three things, to build others' power and leadership through support, accountability, resources, team building, troubleshooting. And then finally, there are specific models out there in community organizing that can also apply to building your fundraising team, like Snowflake and Spokes models. All big, fun, fancy words. We're covering them next week. So I'm purposely leaving a teaser here. And Ellie's going to put in the chat the registration link in case you haven't had a chance to sign up yet. So come back for that. Specifically, if you're thinking, okay, the fundraising amount that I want to raise is maybe an amount that is beyond what I think my network can contribute to be able to bring in more people to do this. It doesn't have to be all on you. So now zooming out, we covered a lot of ground today on what a 7 to 10-day fundraising campaign can look like. At the top, before we kick off, we develop our goals, who to ask, how to ask them, what to say. This is all we covered today, right? This is the prep work. Then as you launch, you're going to track donations. So Ellie's provided some resources on a list builder exercise and spreadsheet, and that'll come in your inboxes too later this week. And you can use that to be able to track, okay, who have I asked? Who has said yes? Who has been able to give? How much did they give? Update your community on progress, especially when we're talking about the short time frames here. Oh my gosh, we have 3 days left and we're over 50% to our goal. Can you help us get over the edge? There's a lot of political texts that say similar things, and you can say it in a genuine, more spirited way. A key part of the 7 to 10-day period is being able to adapt. So growing the fundraising team, which we're going to cover next week. Also adjusting your goal. Sometimes we really lowball ourselves. We say, oh, I can only do, let's try to raise $300. And you're like, oh, wow, we've already raised $300 and we need more resources. Okay, we're going to do a stretch goal of $500. And sometimes it might be the other way. It might be like, oh my God, in an ideal world, we would raise $100,000, but maybe in 7 to 10 days, maybe a more realistic number is $2,000. So being able to adjust that again, so that you have that campaign momentum within 7 to 10 days, so that people feel inspired to contribute, not like, oh my God, my $5, how is that gonna help when you only raised $300 of 100,000? There's a big piece here of cheerleading and celebrating wins. This really comes up, especially when you're thinking about organizing a team. So acknowledging when somebody does a really cute social media post, or has a really fun blurb that they sent to their friends, or did a really great house party ask. And then when you close the campaign, so when you get to that 7 to 10-day period, what you want to do, you want to always show gratitude to your fellow fundraisers and donors. First and foremost, because we're humans and we want to extend gratitude to people that have given their time and their resources to a cause that we care about. And also because if you're looking to go back to those folks again, you want to build that relationship. You don't want people to feel like the only time that they are coming, interacting with you is for money. You want to acknowledge that there is a longer term relationship there. You want to evaluate, and this can be as very simple, with yourself or with other people. If you have other people participating, thinking about, okay, what worked, what didn't work, what lessons did we learn, what can we apply to next time? And then developing new teams and campaigns. So, if at the end of 7 to 10 days you didn't reach your ideal fundraising goal, okay, great. Let's think about new teams and new fundraising campaigns that you can develop in a time-bound way where you're not tapping on your same network over and over again, and you're still able to achieve the goals that you're hoping for. So now we're going to get into, because this has been a crash course, right? A lot of digestion for a lot of us, new materials, and a 90-minute training can only do so much. We want to provide additional support for you all. So first and foremost, the next 2 parts of this series, next week, exact same time, we're going to be talking about turning donors into fundraisers. And in early September, the 3rd session is going to be talking about building that donor engagement ladder. So thinking about building a community of donors and thinking about how can you reach donors that are outside your immediate networks. So that's one. For volunteers, y'all are people, you are our primary constituents. We know that trainings oftentimes are not enough to be able to get the wins and the resources that we need. And so we offer totally free for you coaching. And the way to get started with that is to sign up for a little 15-minute intro with us. So Ellie's posting the link in the chat. There's also the little QR code if that's your thing. But the purpose of coaching is to be able to support you in brainstorming ideas, unblocking yourself from challenges, being able to identify opportunities where they may exist to build your team, identify opportunities where you might be able to make more asks of an existing donor, the world galore. So if you are somebody where you are thinking, I would like somebody else to bounce ideas off of, to look over my strategy with, to help me stop procrastinating, don't hesitate, just sign up. That is exactly why we are here. If we have staff in the room, we have a monthly community of practice just for y'all. Again, totally free of charge, drop in. And our next one is going to be on scenario planning. And so what we're going to do in a room of fellow movement staff fundraisers is talk through what are different scenarios that could happen after the election, and how does that impact our relationships with small dollar donors, with high net worth donors, with foundation program officers, so that we can build a multiracial, cross-class community of donors, regardless of outcomes. And now, without further ado, I would not be living in our values of telling you all to make bold heart asks unless I did a pitch to you all. So consider this a model part of the exercise today. Donor Organizer Hub, we are here to support as many progressives as possible to see ourselves and act upon ourselves to be the fundraisers and organizers that we know that we are, to be able to raise hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars, to be able to do the important win, to win concrete goals in our lifetime, to be able to see universal healthcare for all, to be able to provide all the reproductive healthcare access that we need. And to do that, we are looking to train over 1,000 people in the next 3 months. We're looking to have 12 different public trainings that we previously didn't have in our schedule because of all the energy that is in our collective rooms and our collective communities right now. And to do that, it takes resources. Each of these trainings costs about $1,000 for us to put on in terms of recruitment, in terms of follow-up, in terms of curriculum development. And these trainings produce folks who are more confident than they even thought themselves to be. 2 months ago, we provided a free training to a volunteer fundraising group that was focused on North Carolina voter empowerment groups. And not only did they double their fundraising goal from 250K to $500,000, they surpassed that goal. And they specifically cited our trainings, specifically working with them on direct hard fundraising asks to be able to do it. And so I'm looking at y'all today, my wealthy and owning class folks. Can you chip in $1,000 to make another training happen? My middle class people in the room, can you chip in $100? My working class and poor folks in the room, can you give us a tip of $10? Think about an organizer that you value, who you know could benefit from this, from free knowledge, training, coaching, ongoing support, and belief that they can get their organizing resourced and do this for them. So without further ado, I'm going to do exactly as I instructed. I will smile. I will count to 20, and then we will go to Q&A, my friends. All right, my doves, we got into Q&A. I am here, as I said, all night.